you think that we will see locker room turmoil when the NIL giants don't produce? We should probably trademark NIL giants, by the way. So he says, will we see some turmoil when they don't produce, but the average Jimmy and Joe does? But Jimmy and Joe are not getting NIL money. So what do we think about that? I think that this has always happened. And we're going with the classic Bo Nix with a box of Bojangles in front of him and Bryce Young with some Quiznos as I talk about this. Or Subway, my bad, Subway. So I think it's always happened. And what I mean by that is I think we've always had locker room turmoil. I think the only currency is attention. Because really, it's not so much are you getting advertising dollars, it's what that means. It means some guys are getting more attention than other guys. That's what rubs some folks the wrong way. But as I said, when NIL first started being floated, and now that we've gotten into it, I didn't believe then, and I don't believe now, that NIL was going to disrupt any locker room that wasn't already prone to being disrupted without NIL. NIL is not the determining factor. Poor culture is the determining factor. I know that because we've had locker rooms fracture and come apart long before NIL ever came around. You could say to yourself, yeah, okay, but that's because there were $100 handshakes and under-the-table payments happening before then. Okay, you can't prove that, but yeah, we all know that happened. But my point is, I'll play devil's advocate with you. Let's say everything you're alleging is true. You just made my point for me, didn't you? You told me there was already a cash and payment system in place beforehand, and some guys who were good were getting more attention than other guys who weren't perceived to be as good or valuable. And some teams were able to win and chug merrily along with that formula, and other teams got ripped apart at the seams. And so what determined that? What was the determining factor? It wasn't the money. Some programs had it and they were fine. Other programs had it and they imploded on themselves like a dying star. So what was the determining factor? Culture is the determining factor. It goes back to that whole good soil, bad soil thing. You got good soil, doesn't guarantee a thing. But if you got bad soil, it does guarantee something. And it's not a good thing that it guarantees. So yeah, I think you're going to have some big name players get some big money, and some of them are going to go places and they're going to shine, and every one of their teammates will talk them up and tout them, and they'll talk about how they're a team player. And then other places, you'll see that five-star guy that signed a 6 or 7 figure deal go down in the middle of a game, and you'll see his teammates around him, and none of them will be quick to help him up, and you'll know, oh boy, well, that stood out, didn't it? That's always the tell, by the way. When you see a guy score a touchdown, how quickly do the teammates rush to him to celebrate with him? Or when you see a guy down on the ground, how quick are his teammates to pick him up? Now, if you've ever played, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't played, it still makes a lot of sense to you, doesn't it? Those are the tells. It's not at SEC or Big Ten media days when a reporter asks, hey, what do you think about Jeff? What do you think about Steve? What do you think about Dominique? Everybody's going to say what they're supposed to in that setting because they've been coached how to talk. But when it's real and it's genuine, it's just authentic, and it's in the middle of the heat of battle, you find out how someone feels about their teammates. And I am not mentioning names. I'm just not going to do it. Sorry. But I remember it was a pretty big deal a couple of years ago when, I'll tell you who it was. It was Spencer Rattler. It was either last year or a couple of years ago. There was a play. A lot of people pointed this out. He goes down. I want to say he may have even scored a touchdown, but he's on the ground, and he gets up, and no one celebrated with him, really. Now, it goes to show you that what we ended up hearing about some of the internal dynamics at Oklahoma were probably true. I don't think that's just anecdotal. I think there probably was a lot going on behind the scenes there. Now, for his part in all that, I think he's better for it. And I think even if he's not, he has a chance to be better for it at South Carolina. He's not 85 years old, okay? He's still a college kid. So maybe he did make a mistake or 3 in the way he handled himself at Oklahoma or handled himself in high school. Well, you know what would be a really good story? Is for South Carolina to win 9 games this year, led by Spencer Rattler, who contends for all SEC honors, and then in the postseason interview circuit, steps to a microphone and says, you know, I figured some things out in the process of coming here. I'm so glad that it happened. I wouldn't change a thing. That would be a very happy ending to that story. But it also illustrates the point I was making. Watch for that kind of stuff. If you want to know what NIL is doing to a locker room, or you want to know the status of a locker room, watch for that kind of stuff.